Hi, welcome to Joy on Paper Live. And I am PatZi with a Z, and I am very excited that today I get to talk to one of my favorite authors, Hannah Mary McKinnon, and she has one of my favorite names. I think Hannah Mary is so cute, and she writes thrillers, as she will be happy to tell you. And where are you? There you are, our thriller writer. How are you?
I'm very well. Hi, Patsy. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's so good to see you. And we have, a new book coming up. And then in 2023, one of my favorite reads for all of 23 was The Revenge List. So we'll talk about that because I think the plotting for that one it's a real good lesson for everybody who's interested in writing. First, give just a little background about yourself. Why I started this really is that I think it's so important for readers and viewers to discover new authors that they might not have ever heard about, and also to discover that you're not AI. I think you're real. You look pretty real to me. You're
I
real.
think so.
Okay, good, because somebody tried to pull a trick on the radio and give me, I think, an AI caller, an AI
Oh,
author.
what
Yeah,
happened?
I discovered it, and it was quite a conversation. Like, are you real? And this AI, the so-called author, and I said, well, I can't find you on social media. You don't have any presence whatsoever, and you have this new book coming out, and how are people going to find you? I said, why don't you have a Facebook? Oh, I don't like Facebook. I said, yeah, and so you don't have any social? No, I don't believe in social media. And I said, well, so it was a trick. Somebody tried to pull on me.
That is interesting and quite daring.
Yes, and quite daring because they had a book, and you get a book and you might not do the research. You might not look the person up. Well, you know me, I do a lot. It's not only that I'm going to read the book, I'm going to look them up, but then I do graphics for you. I do all sorts of extras. So that didn't work. But now I started this on St. Patrick's Day on the ninth anniversary of Joy on Paper. 9 years on the radio, pretty
Nine.
great. And
Wow.
I'm still going strong on the radio, but I wanted to do this. So, wow, what can I say? I think the first time we talked, I said, "Oh, I just got such a kick out of your name." I love saying it, Hannah Mary, Hannah Mary. When you were little, did your mother? She was being serious when she said Hannah Mary.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Insert middle name, and then I knew I was in trouble.
Oh,
Definitely.
I think people who don't have a middle name are at a disadvantage because they never experience the use of the middle name. It was very rare. I think maybe two or three times in my life anybody used my middle name, and my mother, I think, used it only once, and after that,
Are you going to tell us what it is?
no. And my sister got her middle name used quite a lot, quite a lot.
Oh, I see. I
So, and
see.
she still does. As a matter of fact, now I've reversed it. So when I have something serious to say to her or I want her to pay attention, I will use her middle name.
Use a middle name. Yep.
So tell us a little about yourself because you are real and you have done exciting things in your life. And well, where did you come from and where did you live and where did you grow up? And my goodness, you've done a lot.
Well, thank you. I was born in the UK. I grew up in Switzerland, and I moved to Canada in 2010. So the connections there are my mum was British, my dad was half British, half Swiss. He grew up in the UK, was born in Switzerland, but grew up in the UK. After they had my sister and myself, we all moved over to Switzerland, where we stayed for a long time, or I stayed a long, long time, 35 years in total before that was a quick stint in the UK from the age of 8 to 11. But aside from that, I grew up in Switzerland. And the Canadian connection is my husband, who I met in 99. He moved over to Switzerland for 11 years. And then we decided to give Canada a go and we settled in the Toronto area. So writing is in fact my second career, not my first. I had a long career in business. I was the I started in as an accountant. I worked for DuPont. I worked for a company that made motors for space applications, which was really cool. I was the purchasing manager, so I actually bought stuff that went into motors that were literally shot into space, which was very exciting indeed. And then after that, I worked for an IT recruitment company, of which I became the CEO in the mid 2000s, and did that for a number of years before we came here. At which point, my second career started because I decided to open a business here in HR, here in Canada, and it failed. And I decided I wanted to try doing something else. And that something else was writing. And here we are. Books 9 and 10 will publish in 2024.
And you become a very famous international best-selling author of killer thrillers. I mean,
I don't know about the famous part, but thank
well,
you.
you're getting there. You're getting there, and it's nice. You have a wonderful, memorable name, and of course, living in Switzerland, you speak French and German fluently.
I do.
So,
Yes, that's right.
so do you ever get the urge to throw in a little French or German in your books?
Oh, I have done here and there. Actually, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but my romantic comedy, my Holly Cassidy romantic comedy, because I write under a pseudonym, that publishes in October, has a character who's half Swiss. And it was lovely with my publisher when I floated that idea. They said, "Oh yeah, include more stuff." So I have, places and Swiss cooking, Swiss cookies in particular, and recipes and stuff. So that was really fun to add a sprinkling of my Swiss heritage.
Oh well, Swiss cookies. That's a good and for a romance, they love recipes. So that's always
Yes,
great. Yeah, that's
yes.
fantastic. Have your books been translated into both languages? Do you see them
They've
over
been
there?
translated into German, so Never Coming Home, published in German last year, which was very, very exciting. And it's the first of the translations I can read because there's a Swedish version of one of my books, The Neighbours, and Estonian of Her Secret Son, and Polish of Never Coming Home. But the German version is the first one I can actually read, and it's so fun to see the translated work. It's quite amazing. It's really, really special. Different covers, different publishers, different covers, different markets, and it's always a complete thrill to see that. I love it.
It's funny what countries are interested in what books, right?
Well, crime, of course, is big everywhere. Crime fiction, I should say, not crime, but crime fiction is such a popular genre. So it's very, very exciting to see different countries acquire my work. I love it.
As they translate into more countries and into more places, then you have to do a whole wall just with the covers. I mean, that'll be a beautiful wall, right?
I should do that. I do have a wall with the framed pictures, well, the framed cover art that I've built. Not built, I say my husband hangs them up. Bless him. But I only have the covers, the North American covers up there right now. So maybe in time, I'll have to take over a whole room. Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, at the rate you're going, yes, it's possible. You did this last year. You did one, and then you did the Christmas one, and so that's it's adding up. And think about
That's
it.
true.
You've got another 50 years ahead of you. So, well, you do, because the oldest guest on my program was 100 years old. She celebrated her 100th
My
birthday.
God.
Yes,
Wow.
and she wrote a book about cybercrime,
Wow. That's
and she had to do
incredible.
the research. She started the research when she was 98. So,
Wow.
Eugenia Levitt West. I mean, that's pretty good. So think of you're going to need
I
a room.
It goes to show, doesn't it, that when I hear people saying, "Oh, I'm in my 30s or my late 20s, I've never been published," I think, "Bah, you got plenty of time. Plenty of
Exactly.
time. Don't worry about it."
Exactly. When you started, writing came easily to you. The first novel was just whoop.
Bad writing came easily, well, put it that way. So I did have the idea for my very first book, which was a romantic comedy actually called Time After Time. Inspiration struck, and I just went with it. I didn't really know what I was doing, which was a good thing and a bad thing. A bad thing because I didn't really know what I was doing. And a good thing, because it meant that I was quite naive, but I was just happy to give it a go and happy to give this a try, and just perhaps overly confident that it would get published. But on the other hand, I didn't have that fear of, oh my goodness, nobody's gonna like. I mean, I did have that fear, but not acute. I wasn't acutely aware of it when I just first started writing the book. When I'd finished it and I went out on submission with it, then yes, absolutely, that was scary. But I think in the initial draft, which wasn't very good, which is why it didn't get picked up until I'd done a lot of rounds of edits. I was just having fun. I was just playing around. So there wasn't that much pressure because nobody had acquired the manuscript. So I was really free to write however I wanted. I did get a lot of rejections. I went out on submission to agents too early, to be fair, and some of them came back and said, we like the premise, but we don't like the execution. And I thought, well, I can work with that, because if I take some classes and workshops, then I can work on the execution, but at least they like the idea. That means I'll keep the idea, but work on my craft. And that's ultimately what helped me find an agent and then get a book deal.
Well, I agree. it is a craft, and it is like I sort of think of it as the Leroy Jethro Gibbs school of writing. That you start off with a piece of wood, and you start off with a design, a blueprint of what you want to build, and then you keep working and you hone your craft until finally you're at that point where you're sanding that boat with the finest sandpaper,
That's
and
right.
you've really done it then.
That's
And
right. That's exactly it. Before I started, well, actually, no, for a while before I met other authors, I guess, I had this impression that writers would sit in front of their computer, and they'd probably be wearing something flowy and drinking tea or whatever, and they'd just write, and it would be effortless, and
mhm.
it would be magical, and they'd get to the end and they'd write the end. And it's not like that at all. I mean, there probably are some authors who work like that, although I've yet to meet one, to be honest. We all, have doubts about what we're doing. We all write ourselves into corners. We all tear everything up and start again. We discard ideas. And I think, if you think about somebody who writes music, or which I don't, or somebody who paints, which I don't either. If someone paints a portrait, they don't, or any painting, they don't start in the top left hand corner and work their way down, perfect brushstroke after perfect brushstroke, to the bottom right and sign their name. They'll do a sketch, an outline in pencil or whatever it is, and then they'll add a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and layer by layer by layer. Same if you're baking an elaborate cake. First, you make a mess with the flour and the eggs, and you make the batter, and then you build it into something, or sculpting something from clay or whatever it might be. So I have no idea. I haven't the foggiest why I thought that writers would just sit down and never look back at what they've written because it was so perfect. Because if you think about it, if you write an email or a letter or something, you're probably, unless it's just a thanks, you're probably going to reread it at least once. so,
Exactly,
so
exactly.
300 pages of a book? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you certainly have honed your craft, and you are now working away with the finest sandpaper because your writing is getting better and better. And
Well, thank
speaking of
you.
getting better and better, let's talk about you have an upcoming release, and I didn't want to wait until July to talk to you about it because I wanted to still give a chance for pre-orders, because I've been explaining to my listeners on the radio for years how very kind it is if you like an author, pre-order, because it
Yes.
really makes a difference.
Yes.
There's that guy inside Amazon. His name is L, and algorithm. He wants pre-orders. He loves pre-orders.
He
Good old
does.
L. I mean,
It's true.
he can really drive us crazy with a lot of stuff, but then he is helpful. if you give him what he wants, you have to feed him what he wants, and he wants pre-orders,
That's true.
right? And
That's true.
so,
Oh, look at
isn't
that.
that cute?
That's so sweet.
So I want, to tell people pre-order, and it's really easy to remember. Hannah Mary, just look up Hannah Mary, and this one is called Only One Survives. So you can give us a little preview about it. I'm sure that this past, well, when you started writing it, because you started writing a while back and then it comes out now. Whew, it is a process, and the premise is fascinating. And of course, that much is up on Amazon already, and Elle is happy. And now he wants some pre-orders.
Well, I'll give you a little glimpse about Only One Survives. It's the story of the rise and very violent demise of the all-female pop rock group called the Bittersweet, when after a fatal accident in the Catskills, one of the band members, decides the group is now probably worth more dead than alive. So the question is, what happened that fateful night in the Catskills, and what is the aftermath as, one by one, these band members basically die? So that is the premise of Only One Survives. I'm so excited about it. I had such fun writing it, and we added tons of lovely material. Speaking of, I'm going to try and grab one of these. Here we go. We were talking about pre-orders. If you pre-order and upload the receipt on HarperCollins's website, they will send you an exclusive The Bittersweet sticker, which is the
Oh,
name of the band. Yeah.
wow. And it is being, I love it when they say it's a story, one of the things of women's friendship. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, well, sometimes there are friends and there are friends because of,
Yep,
ooh,
there's jealousy and envy involved, but also love, admiration, and friendship, and the complexities of the friendship, especially if one person becomes more successful than another. So it was really interesting to explore these friends and see what happened. And I enjoyed the process so much that I wrote song lyrics for 6 songs mentioned in the book. And we've added them as bonus material that you can download from hannahmarymckinnon.com. So there's song lyrics, there's an author interview, there's a Spotify playlist in there with music that's mentioned in the book, because there's tons of music throughout. And there's an author interview and a reader letter as well. So it was just more material that we were able to add to enhance every reader's experience of Only One Survives.
well, the dynamics of the relationship between the band members is, I'm sure, fascinating. When you got the idea for it, did you, before you started writing it, did you run it past your agent or your editors? Did you say, I have this idea to kill off kill off a
Well,
busload of people?
funnily enough, I had this idea, but initially it was, so let me backtrack. I was driving home one day and I saw this derelict, dilapidated house, I should say, not far from where I live. And on the front door, somebody had spray painted "Come Play," which I thought was so creepy. I wouldn't go in there. It was really, really creepy. And that stuck with me. I just had this image of this old abandoned house. But I was working on other stuff, but that image never left. And so I was working on an idea that then became Only One Survives. But initially, it involved work colleagues. And I pitched, a 1 paragraph to my agent and my editor. My editor said, work colleagues, do people
Eh,
really want to read about work? Don't they want to escape work? I thought, yeah, that's a fair point. But I knew I wanted a group of women, and I thought, okay, they could be a book club. It could be a book club, but that felt a bit tame, stereotypically speaking. It felt too gentle almost. Thought, no,
and
that's
also the book club, all the book club ladies who get your book will get a little bit creeped out by that.
hadn't thought that, but that's true too. And so I was chatting with a couple of author friends. I said, I've got this idea about work colleagues, but I want a group of women, but not a book club. It has to be something else. And Samantha M. Bailey said, well, could you make them a band? And immediately, light bulb, I thought,
Oh,
yes,
brilliant.
yes.
Brilliant
And
idea.
so it was, I thought it was great. And while the concept of the whole work colleagues and abandoned cabin and stuff changed a lot, it shifted a lot. The cabin, or the abandoned cabin, I should say, remained a constant, and that features heavily. So I did run the idea past my agent and my editor. They really liked it. I developed it a bit more. I got stuck with the plot. My editor helped me. We brainstormed for about 3 hours on a phone call, and then again by email. And finally, I had the entire plot, and I actually wrote it really quickly. It's my longest book in terms of page count, but it was probably the fastest that I wrote, and I don't know why. I just really, this one just flowed. And some books are better behaved than others, and this one was very well behaved. So I guess that makes it one of my favorites.
Well, the thing is, with the idea of, I mean, it's so clever. Really, it's not a subject that people have really used, often. And the whole idea of a girl band, and there are some famous ones, and so people can imagine what it's like. A group of individually, each is a prima donna in and of herself. Um, so you had some interesting material to work with.
I did. It was quite fascinating. I'm very lucky that one of my best friends since my teenage years is a band manager. And so we were able to have a Zoom call, and I asked him, you know, the whole inside scoop on the industry. He read an early version of the book to make sure I hadn't messed it up. And the band needed a manager. The Bittersweet, the fictional band in the book, needed a manager. And so I named the band manager Roger, like my friend Roger, Roger Kent, actually, which isn't his real name, but his real last name. But he has a secondary role in the book, which was so much fun to do. And fictional Roger, like real Roger, is an absolute gentleman and stand-up guy. So it was really fun to have the real Roger take a fictional role in Only One Survives.
And of course, there are some twists and turns along the
Oh
way.
yes, yes,
Um, Not just what the bus experience, but you come out with a lot of twists and turns as you're writing.
yes.
When you sat down to write this one, how quickly did you come out with the names and really visualize the characters?
Actually, it was pretty quick. Once I'd had the help from my editor to unblock where I was stuck on the plot, I think I wrote the plot, the outline, which turned out to be about 30 pages in about 5 days, which was really, it was really fast. And for the most part, it didn't shift. I had one of my characters, and I can't go too deeply into it or I'll give stuff away, but I had one of my characters end up in a different situation than she is in the book. But after speaking to a fellow author, Hank Philippi Ryan, whose husband is a lawyer, they said, "Ooh, if you do that, that's going to be really tricky. You're going to write yourself into a legal corner there, and it's not going to work." So I swiftly stepped away and sidestepped that problem by doing something else. So I had some input. But in terms of the names, the band name, the Bittersweet, that came pretty quickly. I already knew that the main character's name was going to be Vienna. And I'm not sure why I settled on that name, just because I like it, I guess. Also, the song by Ultravox from a long, long, long time ago, showing my age now, in the 80s, called Vienna, I really liked, and I knew the band would be influenced. Although they're younger, they're heavily influenced by bands from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. So the names came relatively quickly, I have to say. So it was a joy to write this one. It really was. I got to the end and I thought, wait a minute, I can't be done already. It's only been 4.5 months or however long it was. So it was quite an extraordinary experience.
Well, and of course, one of the nice things, I know that you always have great resources for, in this case, for the band, for somebody giving you legal advice and all of that. That's so important, and I think that's one of the joys of being a writer. you make all these connections. It is an isolating process to do the writing, but you do have this opportunity if you reach out and you use technical advisors, people who make suggestions. You meet new people and have a deeper relationship with people that you might already know, and you discover they know something about the subject I'm writing about.
Absolutely. And I find that people are incredibly, incredibly generous with their time. I'll phone up, I have a tendency to phone up complete strangers and say, oh, my name's Hannah Mary McKinnon. I'm a thriller writer. Honest, I have this really strange, bizarre question about the plot in my book. And, it's inevitably got something to do with murder or whatever. And they'll indulge me. And I've had for example, an ER doctor give up his entire lunch hour to walk me through what would happen in a certain scenario if somebody was brought into the hospital after they'd overdosed. And he thanked me at the end, and I said, no, I have to thank you. And he said, no, but you don't understand. This has been great because it's fictional.
Yeah.
This is not real. I can talk about this and give you all the details, and nobody's been hurt, nobody's overdosed. It's just
That's
it's
nice.
just me sharing my knowledge, and it was lovely. People are so gracious and so generous with their time.
I remember, for which book was it? You contacted a police officer in Maine, I think.
That's
Um,
right. Yep,
yeah,
yep,
when you
yep.
set a book in Maine because you didn't set it in Canada. Yeah, you
That's
needed a
right.
little.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yep. Bruce Robert Coffin. He's a fellow crime author, and we connected at VoucherCon many years ago, the murder mystery writers and readers convention. And he's been one of my go-to guys to get away with fictional murder ever since.
That, that's wonderful. That's really the joy of writing. And you mentioned BoucherCon. Are you doing events this year?
Honestly, I haven't done many events since the pandemic. I've done a couple of in-person things, now more and more. And I just attended Motive, which is Toronto's mystery and crime writing convention. Oh, it was fabulous. It was so great to see people and to attend panels and be on panels. It was just lovely. So there might be a couple of more events coming up. I didn't attend Thriller Fest this year. That one's in New York every year, but I'm planning on going next year. Bouchercon, I don't think I'll make it until 2026, which bizarrely isn't that far away anymore. It's only 2 years. And that one will be in Calgary. So I'm very much looking forward to that too.
I used to be aware of yours, but when we went through that pandemic, it just put like this big blot on the calendar. You're not sure when you were doing what, and everything changed so much.
Oh,
So
yes. Yes, indeed. It became Blur's Day.
exactly. And so you're writing the book, and as you're writing it, is that where you started thinking of lyrics?
I knew I wanted to write lyrics, but it was at the end actually that I have a tiny little snippet where Vienna is writing a song and we just have one verse. So I had that in there. And then at the end, I thought I'm going to write lyrics to six songs because six songs are mentioned in the book. And I thought that would be really interesting and different because I've never attempted anything like that. So I figured I would sit down and try and write some song lyrics that further illustrate, because Vienna writes them in the book, she's the songwriter, that would demonstrate her frame of mind with everything that has been going on and everything that's happened in her life. So it's a little bit more insight into her character. It was fascinating. It was really, really fun. It was something that I really enjoyed and something I'd love to do more of. Just don't ask me to sing because I can't and I won't.
Oh, I thought you were going to sing for us today,
No, never.
but you found somebody who put words to music.
Well, if somebody, so what I would need is a composer in that sense. I just write the words and then it's the composer's job to come up with a tune, to come up with the music. I can't do that. I
So
that's
no,
way
you
beyond
haven't
my
found
pay.
anyone yet?
No, we haven't. I haven't looked. I mean, it was just the lyrics go with the book, but we'll see if something comes out of them. Who knows? That would be pretty cool.
Well, it would be very cool. I mean,
Hmm.
we're always talking about when you're doing your book promotion to think out of the box. Now that's
Yes.
really thinking out of the box.
Yes, yes. It was really, I like being stretched, as an author. I think that's why all of my books are different. I love putting my characters, in a situation that I know nothing about or little about, and then finding out. I've always enjoyed that. Back in my corporate gig, I would be responsible for example, opening an office in Germany, or leading due diligence when the company was acquired, or merging with another company and doing all of that stuff. And I hadn't done those things before, but it didn't faze me, because I knew I would figure it out with the help of other people who understood the legalities and implications and stuff. So I guess writing is very similar in that sense. Having said that, I don't think I would ever attempt to write historical fiction, because the amount of research and the attention to detail of not getting a button wrong or something, I'm not sure I would. That scares me a little. So crime, I doubt a murderer is going to send me an email and say that's not how this works. So I'm safe, hopefully.
Well, hopefully, you never know in this world. You might get somebody who does that. Now, I want to tell people that Hannah Mary, although she writes a lot about killing, she has never actually killed anyone. But she has a
Never.
lot of devious ideas how to do it and how to
Yes.
make an alibi because
Fictional
she
bodies piling up behind me, but
and
only
she
fictional.
would be
No.
great at writing alibis for anybody who's considering, right?
Well, I wouldn't encourage anyone to do anything against the law. Let me say that, and just leave it there. Don't.
Leave it there. But just enjoy the thrillers vicariously with Hannah Mary's books. And as a matter of fact, let's talk about The Revenge List,
Oh,
which is one of my top 3 reads in 2023.
amazing.
I loved reading this book. I got such a kick out of it. Just even now, I think about it, and it's just so funny. I mean, it's not funny. It's funny, funny.
Parts of
Oh,
it
Frankie
are.
Morgan. Frankie Morgan stays with you, and I remember when she's going to the. We have to tell people about it. It's about Frankie Moore, who is told to go to anger management classes, and she arrives. I think she arrives 6:59 for a
Yeah,
meeting at 7 o'clock,
yeah,
and
that's
that
right.
stuck with me. I thought, yes, yes, that's showing control, Frankie. You showing control. So tell us about that book.
So the Revenge List is the story about an anger management group therapy exercise gone terribly, terribly wrong. So Frankie Morgan has a bit of a temper, it has to be said, for good reason. And she ends up in anger management group therapy because of an altercation at work, with a client and her boss happens to be her dad. And so, to kind of keep the peace, she ends up in these management sessions, which she thinks are a total waste of time. And in the first session, she's tasked with writing a forgiveness list. So imagine a list of people who you feel have wronged you and you could work to forgive if you chose to do so, which Frankie, being Frankie, doesn't want to because she hates their guts. So why would she forgive them? So she makes this list, doesn't really think much of it when she loses it, until the people on her list start having accidents. And one of the big problems in that, because you think, oh, well, she doesn't like them, it doesn't matter. But one of the twists is that her own name is on the list, because her past self is the one person she will never, ever be able to forgive. And so now she's in trouble. She doesn't know who's behind it. She doesn't know why they're doing this. And she doesn't know if they're coming for her next.
Big mistake, Frankie. Never put your name on a list. I never sign up. People say, put your name on this list. I never put my name on
No.
the list.
It
So,
was a fun book to write. It really was. It was because it deals with anger, and for anyone watching, rest assured it's not 300 odd pages of angry woman,
No.
because that would be very tiring to read. It would be very tiring to write. But anger is really quite a fascinating subject, especially when you start breaking it down between the differences, in particular between how angry men and angry women are perceived. Or if somebody in the boardroom smacks their hand on the table, and they happen to be a man, it's forceful, it's manly. Whereas if it's a woman, oh, she's being hysterical, she's being emotional. And so that was quite interesting to explore. And of course, I put Frankie in a very male dominated industry. She works in construction, she's a project manager. Her dad is a general contractor, so she works for him. So there are situations that she's confronted in which are very real, and which women in construction face all the time, which are very, very difficult to get a handle on. And so she has, in her past, also reasons to be angry, which are uncovered more and more as the story goes along. So my hope is that when readers meet Frankie, yeah, they're going to think, "Oof, she's a bit angry there. Why did she do that?" But then go, "Oh, that's what all that anger is doing to her. It's basically eating her alive, and it has no place else to go. And it's her way of expressing it." Frankie is very dear to my heart. She remains very dear to my heart. And if she were real, I'd go to the pub with her. I think we'd have a good chat.
Well, it's funny because it's a name that I remember. I remember it. I remember the scene. I remember the scene when she walks in, and there are the chairs, and there are these people who are angry people,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be too close to them.
Yeah. And at one point she wonders, is this a good idea, having us all corralled, all of us angry people corralled in one room where we could just, a spark could light us, and we'd just go off like a box of fireworks, but
Yes,
not
well,
pretty ones.
you painted that scene so beautifully. Right now, I just close my eyes, I can visualize it. Of course, throughout the book, you had to drop some Easter eggs along the way, and you did it they were very cleverly done. Very
Thank
cleverly done. It was
you. Thank you.
one of the best from that point of view, that I don't get surprised very often. I catch things really quickly. But I liked that. I remember reading it by the pool. I couldn't stop. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Some authors have things that they like need to have on their desk, to sort of motivate them. Do you have anything on your desk that is like a motivational tool?
Not really a motivational tool. I can say that I need to have a clear desk. I need to have my desk cleared and tidy, and I've always been that way. Because when it's cluttered, it stresses me out. So I like it when it's tidy and clear, and I'm set for the day. When I'm writing a book, I have, to my left, I have a pin board where I've pinned up the map of Portland. I'm setting this new book, it's going to be book 11 that we'll publish next year, hopefully. I've got my map, and I can figure out what's going on. I have pictures of my characters. I Google hairstyles. No, not celebrities, it's too distracting. But I'll Google hairstyles and pop them up on my pin board. And then other than that, I just have a great big jug of water. That's my drink of choice when I'm writing. So I just make sure I get through that every day, at least one. But I'm just thinking, do I have anything in particular? No, not really. I just get my butt in the seat and plow on through whatever draft I'm on or whatever edits I'm on, because if I don't do that, then it's not going to get done. So there's a lot of self-discipline that goes into writing, definitely.
Oh, definitely. Because you came out with two books
Mm.
last year. And let's talk about that one, because that was a different, completely different book.
Completely different. So the Christmas Wages by my alter ego, Holly Cassidy. And it's so funny when people find out it's me, because we're not hiding it. We're not hiding at all that Hannah Mary McKinnon and Holly Cassidy are one and the same. But some people don't make the connection straight away. They say, "Oh my goodness!" I had somebody yesterday say, "Wait, that's your book? Hold on, I'm going to go and read it right now," because they happen to love Christmas. So the Christmas Wager is a holiday romantic comedy. It's about Bella, who we see there on the cover, who's a high flying real estate mogul, and she is tasked with acquiring a failing shop, or well, actually the building that houses a failing Christmas shop in a very small town in Colorado. So she flies there thinking that it'll be done and dusted within, 24 hours. But then she meets Jesse, the gentleman in the red plaid shirt on the cover, who is the shop and building owner's grandson. And Jesse does not want his grandfather to sell the building. So they get into a debate and they end up making a wager, a Christmas wager, where they participate in the town's holiday games, which are, different challenges, obstacle runs, and baking feats and stuff, team challenges. So they each join separate teams with the idea that whoever beats the other one is able to dictate the price at which the building will be sold. So that's what they get into. But of course, sparks fly, and they might end up thinking that, I'm not supposed to fall for the rival, but maybe I am.
Well, yeah, it's really cute. I love the premise and I love the winter games that they play because I also come from a small town, Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So you know
Yeah.
what it's like. We had the university and they would do ice sculptures. So we'd have this big ice
Oh,
sculpture show.
oh,
And then
fantastic.
on the side, we'd have all these other events and fairs and stuff like that and in the snow, which is, it's a
Amazing.
lot of fun. So, and
Amazing. It was
again, I
fun to
think,
write. It really was. It was very different. I had to take my thriller hat off, and put my rom-com hat on. And there's one scene where one of the challenges happens on a frozen lake, and there's a break in the ice, and somebody falls through, and they're pulling a sled, and I had kids in the back of the sled, and my editor said, "Oh, no, 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 you can't. That's too scary." And I started laughing. I said, "Well, the kids are fine. It really is a matter of, a scene." And we established very quickly that the kids are perfectly fine. But she said, "No, no, 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 no. We can't have the kids in even a tiny bit of danger." And I remember thinking, my gosh, if that is scary, then definitely don't read my thrillers.
yes, definitely not. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for being on Joy on Paper Live because it's so
Thank
much
you.
fun. And I just want to remind people you can start reading Hannah right now and then go and pre order.
Yeah,
If only one survives. I love the name Bittersweet for the girls'
thank
band,
you.
and there's interesting dynamics in that one, I think. Yeah.
Definitely.
So I want to also put your website here, and I think I got it right, Hannah Mary McKinnon. And
Yes.
that's it. And thank you so much for being part of Joy on Paper. It's always a joy to talk to you, and now it's a joy to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we've been doing this since we met at BoucherCon in St. Petersburg in, what was it, 2018, I think?
Yes. Oh my
So
goodness,
this
can you believe
was,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. No.
No, I can't. At the Vinoy Hotel, which was
That's
a
right.
beautiful location. I think one of the most beautiful locations for
It
a
was.
BoucherCon. It
It
was
was fabulous. I've
go
loved
to
it. And I've loved today chatting with you. Thank you so much, PatZi. It's always, always a pleasure and a highlight of when one of my books is coming out that I get to speak to you. So thank you.
bye bye now, Hannah. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
I have a feeling something happened here. And if you're still watching and if you're still listening, then you'll know that something happened. I hope everything is okay. Oh, as I said, there's a lot of things to learn here. Anyway, I hope that you will subscribe. Thank you so much. Ooh, I hope this worked today. If I didn't, if I made a mistake, forgive me because I have been trying to get this all organized, and I do hope that this last section worked. Anyway, I will discover it if not.